How are you feeling today? Don't rush to listen on. Let's stay here a little longer. There is a question, not a big one, but if answered honestly, it might make your heart sink for a moment. If you knew in advance that this person would only walk beside you for a very short stretch of your life, would you still want to meet them? Not to love, not to stay, just to meet. A meeting so brief that when you look back, you are not sure whether you truly understood them or only just realized that you were not as lonely as you thought. Some people step into our lives very quietly, so gently that if we are not paying attention, we would think it was just an ordinary moment, but they arrive right when we are tired, right when we no longer have the strength to hold ourselves together. They do nothing. Truly, that is all. They do not solve problems. They do not say anything profound. They do not try to stay. They simply look at us, listen to us, stay there long enough for us to stop feeling like we are fading out of our own lives, and then they leave. No promises, no traces left behind. Sometimes we do not even manage to ask their name, but from that moment on, something within us is no longer the same. Life goes on. Days continue to pass. Everything on the outside does not change much. It is just that somewhere very deep inside, we know that we were once touched. And perhaps what confuses us the most, it is not that they left, but that such a brief presence could leave behind such a vast silence. Some people stay only in memory, yet every time we remember, our heart still sinks softly, as if they had just stepped out of that room. Perhaps it is not because they were more special than anyone else, but because they came at the exact moment we needed them most. And if you have ever had such a meeting, then perhaps somewhere in your heart, you also understand why some things do not need to last long to be powerful enough to change our direction. There is something very strange. The longer we wait for something, the moment we finally touch it, the more afraid we become of losing it. Some joys arrive after many months and years of hope, not loudly, not brilliantly, just a very quiet feeling that says, so it finally came. We hold it with both hands. Hold it very carefully. Hold it as if breathing just a little too hard might make everything fall apart. But life does not give us much time to grow accustomed to it. The joy has barely learned its own name before it begins learning how to leave. And what hurts us is not exactly the loss itself, but the fact that we never quite got to live fully with what we had. We did not have time to get used to that feeling, did not have time to let it become a natural part of our daily lives, did not have time to stop being guarded, fearing that this might only be temporary. Everything ends while we are still learning how to believe that. This time, perhaps we are allowed to feel at ease. After that come very quiet days. No major events, no floods of tears, just a hollow feeling. That is hard to name. We still do the same things. Still wake up. Still go outside. Still talk to other people. But somewhere within us, one question keeps repeating. If this was never meant to stay long, then why did it come at all? Why does life let us taste a little of the thing we desire most, only to then tell us that we cannot keep it? Is it because we are not lucky enough? Or because life has always been this way? Only passing through, never staying, and then many of us begin to learn how to protect ourselves by not hoping too much, not placing our trust fully, not letting our hearts go any further. But deep inside, we still know what hurts us is precisely because that thing was once real. And when something has once been real, even for a very short while, its departure always leaves a mark. That time does not easily erase. Perhaps that is also when we begin to ask ourselves, do such brief encounters bring only loss, or do they come to hold us back? In the moments when we were about to lose ourselves, there are days in life when we are no longer searching for anything, not waiting for miracles, not hoping for someone to save us. Just, we are tired and we want everything to pause for a moment. On days like that, sometimes we meet someone without knowing ourselves, why we met them. It is not an arranged meeting, no clear reason, just two people happening to be in the same place at the same time. We say a few fragmented things we do not usually tell anyone, not because they are so important, but because we never thought there would be someone patient enough to listen. That person does not interrupt, does not ask for more, does not try to understand. They just sit there, stay, and let us finish speaking. No advice, no answers, no solutions offered, just a feeling that for the first time in a very long while, we do not need to be strong. And strangely, that alone is enough to keep us standing still a little longer. The meeting ends very quickly. No promise to meet again. No sign at all that it will become something important. But afterward, when everything returns to silence, we realize we have changed a decision. Not because we suddenly have hope, but because we no longer feel completely alone. Some people step into our lives, not to stay, not to become something long-lasting. They come to remind us that we are still here and that our being here still has meaning to someone. Perhaps that is the smallest thing one human being can offer another, but sometimes just that much is enough for a story. Not to end right there. There is a very fragile moment in a person's life. It is when we begin to think, maybe this time is different. Not because everything is perfect, but because after so much breaking apart, we have learned to slow down, to listen more carefully, to place our trust more cautiously. We are no longer in a rush, no longer dreaming too far ahead. Just little by little, we allow ourselves to believe that we might be able to stay here longer. Some days pass very gently. No climax, no upheaval, just a sense of relief. From no longer having to brace ourselves, we begin to grow accustomed to that presence. So accustomed that we let our guard down. So accustomed that we forget everything can still change direction. And then something happens without warning, without preparation, without giving us a chance to finish a sentence. Everything stops halfway, like a sentence left unfinished, like a door barely opened, already closing again. What hurts us most is not the departure, but the moment we realize that we had begun to believe that we were allowed to be at peace, to believe that this time life would not take anything else away. After that comes a very strange emptiness, not loud, not violent, just a silence that lasts longer than usual. We remain standing there among unfinished things, among plans we never had time to name, among a feeling we do not know whether to call it regret or loss. There are pains that do not come from losing a person. They come from losing the belief that we were finally close to touching peace. And in that moment, we begin to ask ourselves, are there things that are only allowed to come close, but never allowed to stay? Or is it that wholeness was never about how long we could hold on, but about the fact that we once dared to believe, even if only for a very short stretch? There are periods in life when we do not think we will become anyone at all, not because we lack dreams, but because we have grown used to. No one is truly expecting anything from us. We live day by day. Do what needs to be done. Avoid asking questions that are too big, for fear there will be no answer gentle enough. Then someone appears, not for long, in fact, very briefly. They do not change us immediately. Do not pull us out of confusion. Do not say that everything will be okay. They do just one very quiet thing. Stay there long enough not to leave. They see the parts we still try to hide. No judgment, no fixing, just an acknowledgement. Yes, I see it. That presence does not last. Eventually, each person's path turns in a different direction. There is no real goodbye. Just one day, we realize we no longer see them. Time passes. We grow in our own ways, stumble, stand back up. Sometimes it seems we have completely forgotten that brief meeting from long ago, until one day, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we realize that something within us was laid as a foundation long ago. A very small belief that we are not entirely a failure, that perhaps we too can become a kinder version of ourselves. Some people come into our lives not to walk with us to the end. They come to leave behind something they themselves never knew would stay with us for so long. And when they leave, what remains is not their image, but the feeling that there was once someone who believed in us enough for us to learn how to believe in ourselves. Perhaps not every companionship needs to last. Some meetings last just long enough to plant a seed, and the rest of our lives is simply the journey of letting that seed grow on its own. Perhaps you have wondered about this too. Why is it that some connections are very brief, yet when we think back, they appear more vividly than things that stayed beside us for many years? Not because they were more perfect, nor necessarily because that person was more special than anyone else. It is simply that they did not stay long enough to be worn down. When something ends early, we do not have time to see all its hidden corners. We do not have time to go through small frictions. We do not have time to grow weary of repetition. Memory keeps the most beautiful version. A smile, a look, a very quiet moment. And because there is no continuation, the mind fills in the empty space with what is gentlest. There is another thing we rarely notice. Brief connections often arrive at very sensitive times. When we are lost, when we are tired, when we are no longer sure where we are going. At such moments, a presence that is just enough can become very large, not because they did something extraordinary, but because they appeared when we needed them most. Like a small lamp in a dark room. That light is not strong, but in the darkness, just that much is already a great deal. And then, when that light goes out, the room seems darker than before, not because there is more darkness, but because we have known that light once existed. Perhaps that is why brief things are not only remembered for a long time, but are remembered in a very beautiful way, not because they had no flaws, but because they ended before the flaws had time to show. And perhaps because of that, whenever we remember, we are not only remembering a person, we are remembering the feeling of ourselves when we were still in that moment, a version of us not yet hardened, not yet guarded, not yet closed. There is something very hard to put into words when a brief connection ends. We often think that we are hurting because we lost a person, but if we are honest enough, perhaps we will realize that the loss does not stop there. We lose the version of ourselves that existed when we were with them, a gentler version, more trusting, less defensive. When they were still there, we did not need to try so hard to become someone else. We did not need to hide, did not need to tense ourselves to be okay. And then, when they leave, that version disappears as well. We return to our old life, but not exactly the same as before, because there is a part within us that once opened, and now does not know how to close again. That is why this pain is not loud. It does not come in waves, does not explode. It is quiet, and it lasts. We ask ourselves many things. If that day we had spoken differently, if we had kept them a little longer, if everything had only shifted by the smallest moment. Those if only questions are not searching for answers. They only want to prolong something that is already ended. And so we get stuck between wanting to let go and being unable to let go, between knowing that everything has passed and the feeling that this story has not truly closed yet. Perhaps because of that, we begin to cling to a very fragile belief that somewhere, in some form, this connection has not completely disappeared. Not because we refuse to accept the truth, but because accepting that everything has ended completely can sometimes be too cruel for a heart that once opened very honestly. That belief does not have to be true, but it helps us breathe, helps us keep living without feeling that we have lost everything. There are pains that do not need to be explained. They only need to be acknowledged that, yes, I lost more than I thought, and perhaps only when we dare to look straight at that do we begin to be ready to understand more deeply what it means to gain and to lose. Perhaps from very early on, we grew accustomed to thinking that gain and loss are opposites. To have is joy. To lose is sorrow. To hold in our hands is luck. To slip away is failure. But if we look a little more closely, we will see that they are not as separate as we once believed. Every time we gain something, we are also trading something away. Time, carefreeness, a part of freedom we had not noticed before. And every time we lose something, not everything disappears. Something stays, very quietly, but very real. A new way of seeing, a depth of feeling, a maturity that can only come after we have opened our hearts and then had to close them again. A brief meeting, therefore, is both a gain and a loss. A loss because we could not keep it, but again, because it once existed deeply enough to change us. If it had not left, perhaps we would not have realized the value of that presence. Perhaps we would have grown used to it and taken it for granted. It is finiteness that makes us look more closely. It is knowing that this will not last forever that makes us live more deeply in each moment. There are things that do not need to stay long to be meaningful. They only need to come at the right time and touch deeply enough. And perhaps when we stop trying to divide what is gained and what is lost, we begin to see a gentler truth that not everything that leaves takes something away from us. Some things leave behind within us another version of ourselves, quieter but steadier. There is another way to look at brief meetings, not as interrupted relationships, but as milestones. Some people step into our lives, not to walk with us to the end of the road. They come only to mark a stretch that, without them, would no longer be the same as it once was. They appear between a phase that is closing and another phase that has not yet opened. Like a bridge, it does not stay, but without it, we could not cross to the other side without losing ourselves. Some connections do not need to last to be deep. They are deep because they touch the right moment. When we are still struggling with the questions of who we are, where we are going, and whether we have enough strength to keep going. In those moments of transition, a presence that is just enough can become a support, not to cling to, but to let us know that we can stand upright. Then when that phase passes, they also leave the scene, quietly, without needing explanation, as if they came only to hand back to us something that we will need for the next part of our lives. And even if afterward we forget many details, forget even the face, forget even the voice, the feeling remains. The feeling that at a very specific, very fragile moment, we were once supported. Perhaps that is why, when we look back, we do not only remember a person, we remember a phase, a version of ourselves, a very quiet turning point, but a very real one. And perhaps such meetings do not disappear, they simply change form, no longer present on the outside, but staying inside like an invisible thread, connecting the past to the present. Between what has ended and what is beginning, there are people who come and go very softly, but it is precisely because of them that we can step across that boundary without breaking. Perhaps after everything we have just been through, we no longer need to ask whether brief companionship is a gift or a punishment, because there are things in life that do not come to be classified. They come to be felt. Perhaps if we look from the place of pain, we would say that we lost. But if we look from the truth, we also cannot deny that we once had. And what was once had does not disappear just because it did not stay. It continues to live in the way we look at others more gently, in how we know how to listen better, in the moments we choose to stay with ourselves instead of walking away. Perhaps you were once not loved in the right way. Perhaps you once felt that you did not belong anywhere, but that does not mean that you are unworthy of love, nor does it mean that you will forever have nowhere to return to. Sometimes just one very brief meeting is enough to plant again within us a small belief that I can still begin again, not beginning from the start, but beginning from the place where we once broke and were still able to stand back up. If today, as you listen to this, you suddenly remember someone who once passed through your life very quickly, then perhaps that is not meant to make you sadder, but to remind you that you once opened your heart. And the fact that you once opened your heart is a very brave thing. This story does not promise to heal you, nor does it try to explain sadness. It only wants to stay here for a little while, long enough to tell you that you are not alone, and I see you, all the pain you are carrying with you. If somewhere in these past minutes you felt your heart soften just a little, then perhaps just that much is already a kind of rebirth. Thank you for staying until the very end. And I hope that when you step out of this moment, you will carry with you not answers, but a greater gentleness toward yourself. We will meet again. At some point, when you are ready,